What if most chiropractors are playing the game the completely wrong way? They're burned out, they're not happy, they're not getting the results they want, and they feel stuck in that treadmill. Today's guest is quietly built one of the biggest, most impactful movements in terms of chiropractic, business, freedom, and impact. If you want an actual shift and an actual change to your life, the life of your patients, Dr. Tim Young, and I just recorded the last hour and a half, and I did not expect the conversations to go the way they did. So please sit down, get a pen and paper, and enjoy the show, because he's going to not just show you how to boost your practice and how to have the best numbers that you've ever seen, but to actually do that with meaning, with joy, and with purpose. This episode is for you. Now back to the show. Guys, welcome back to the Practice Speak podcast. I think if you've been living under a rock, if you don't know Dr. Tim Young, and Dr. Tim Young and I, we just had a chat and we said, let's try and turn this show, this next hour or so, into a piece of content that it's not just about the tactics of how to grow your practice. It should be a paradigm shift for hopefully many, many of you, that you can actually take something away. You can walk back into your office in the next hour or two and change your behavior. So Tim, welcome to the show, sir.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me. This is gonna be fun stuff. I'm really glad.
It's going to be a good one. And Tim, this is the thing. I thought what questions I can ask you, and I really wanted to connect with you on a human level to understand your human operating system. And we'll talk about the book later and all the amazing work you've done. But from what I've personally experienced from working with leaders and being mentored by leaders, you guys are a different breed. It didn't start with Tim Young being being Tim Young. So if I was to take you right back at the beginning, way before you were a chiropractor, what was life like? And I'm thinking maybe you were 5, 6, 10, 15 years of age.
Yeah, and I touch on some of those things in the book, some of the lessons and the experiences that I went through that when I reflect back, it shaped. We all have those. We all have events that happen and environments that we are raised in that shape who we become, if it's good or bad. Some people take a tough environment and they use it to hold them back and suppress them, and other people use it as fuel and use it to create what you're talking about, more of a leader or somebody that doesn't live in the past but uses it to build them for the future. And I grew up, so for the doctors in the UK, so one of my favorite places in the whole world to go is the English countryside. My wife and I, we've spent time in Chippenham at Castle Coombe. We've been to the Slaughters. We stayed at a bed and breakfast called the White Rabbit. It's way up in the countryside. It's just beautiful over there. But it's interesting, where I'm from is if you look at it on a map, is in the United States, the Missouri country, the Missouri hills. We call them the hills. It's not very flat down there. It's all deep, deep woods. You've seen movies about it. Right? That's kind of how I was raised, and very poor, very, very poor. We had very little. My father, he worked very hard. My mother worked very hard, but they were the epitome of working hard for very little, and it was a way of life. The attitude when I was growing up is poor is proud. Poor is proud. You don't if because everybody around you is poor and you worked hard, but you didn't receive much for your work. That was okay as long as you had a roof over your head and you had food on the table. Then you were doing okay, and that was the attitude, right? And that's how I was raised. And so you really, what's interesting, Stefan, is you learn at a very young age to survive and to adapt. When I was, and this is hard for people, and you would almost have to go way back and actually witness and visit what I'm talking about to get a true perspective. But where we lived when I was, like, say, in the first grade, when I was 6 years old, it was so far down in the hills that there was only two other homes literally within walking distance. I mean, if you walk for a whole day, but a walking distance from where we lived, and an older couple lived in one and the other one was abandoned. And it was this is and that's where I and my sister, so she's years 3 years younger than me, so I was 6, she was 3, so she was a baby. So I was alone. I had me and my dogs, and I would leave sometimes. I know UK, it's not a big deal there, but where we was raised, we was raised to hunt. We hunt, we fish. We grew a garden. That's where how we put food on the table. We didn't go to the store. My mom and dad would go to the store for condiments, ketchup, mustard, but we would drink goat's milk from the farm down the road. We ate out of the garden. Anything that we caught fishing or hunting, that's what we ate. Never go to a restaurant ever. Never go to the store ever. And I would leave a lot of times. And you got to imagine, I'm 6 years old. So for those of you that have children or grandchildren like I do, put this in perspective. At 6 years old, I would leave at daylight with my rifle, and I wouldn't come home till dark. We'd be gone all day. And that's what, and you think about it, it's like I didn't eat nothing. I drank water out of the springs and the creeks, or we call them creeks, little rivers. And I just hunted all day, and just by myself. And so you learn. And the only reason I tell this kind of silly story is you learn. When I look back, you learn to be very self-sufficient. You learn to be alone with yourself. You learn to navigate. At 6, you're out there with a rifle. Like, I would never let my 6-year-old son or grandson gone out in the woods in the middle of the Missouri hills with a rifle. But you do that, and then that was just kind of my life. And then we started moving, and my father, he was a meat cutter, and my mother, she was a waitress, and she worked a lot of hard jobs, a lot of hard manual labor jobs. And I just grew up in that environment that things were tough. My father was hard. He was very hard on me. Very hard on me. I won't go into details, but it was put in an environment coming through that you had to, like stand up for yourself, and then, I have a story in the book I talked about in the 4th grade, the bully that changed my life. Stephen, I was always real tiny. I was real little, Tiny Tim was my nickname for the longest time. And in the 4th grade, I probably didn't weigh but maybe 60 pounds. I was little.
Just for
And
context, just for context,
yeah,
I can see the biceps almost ripping the shirt now, a few years later. How
yeah,
much do you weigh
yeah.
now, Tim?
Well, I weigh about 210 now. Yeah,
Okay, just for the people that are not watching this and they're listening on the
yeah.
podcast. So a few things have changed.
Well, and what happened was being so tiny that I had a kid that started to pick on me, and he had failed the 6th grade twice, so he should have been in the 8th grade. Well, there's a huge growth spurt in that middle school, or 6th grade, 8th grade. So he was almost a grown man. I mean, he was huge, compared to me, and he's the bully that decided to pick on me. Making a long story short, because this was a transition in my life that I think is important leading forward. Everybody goes through these certain events, right? But one day when he chased me to the bus, chased me, torment me, terrorized me, torment me, the teachers turned to look the other way, because I would only was there for a year, so I was like the newcomer, right? I was an outsider comparatively to everybody else. Anyway, one day I'd had enough, and as he was chasing me to the bus, I got right to the bus. And when I got there, something in my brain snapped, and my little 60-pound self stopped, turned, I planted my foot, and I just swung with everything I had and caught him right in the face, knocked him straight backwards. And I run up on the bus, and then I hid down a seat. It's like a movie. I mean, straight out of a movie, right? And I'm just laying there, please, please, please don't get on the bus. Well, the bus pulls off, so I get to live another day. Well, I come back the next day, nothing, nothing. Well, then I get called into the principal's office. Somebody sees that I get in trouble. I mean, this kid's a monster, and he's tormenting me, and I don't want to get in trouble. So, well, here's the story. This is part of the story that my whole world changed. My life at this moment changed, and it's, again, so long ago. Tiny little country town out in this parking lot. That moment changed my life, because about a week later, I was in the boys' restaurant, the boys, and for my British people, and I'm washing my hands, and this kid walks in, and when I saw him, we locked eyes, and for a second, my heart just quit beating. I just knew I can't escape. I'm dead right now. And what happened next was the life changing. He almost fell down getting out of the bathroom to get away from me. And at that moment, I went, okay, bam, never again will I run ever. I will never be tormented. I will never run from another bully. I will never run from another fight. And I didn't. From that moment on, I established who I was in every event that I went to. And I was never bullied again, not by a person, not by an event, not by a situation. I ended up going and I had a kind of a bully tell me that I couldn't be a bodybuilder. I was 155 pounds in high school when I graduated. 1 year later, I won Teenage Mr. Missouri because I made a decision that I was going to do that. And I competed in bodybuilding, for 23 years. Then I went into the Navy. And they put me in charge because I was bigger than me. So they put me in charge. And this is really where a lot of my leadership qualities kind of came out. I never led anyone. Me, I pushed myself into certain situations that I would let myself down. But then all of a sudden, I'm in charge of 92 young men in basic training. That was an experience, right? My son is there doing the same thing right now
Right
as we
now?
speak.
How old is he?
Yeah, he's 28. Yeah, he
28.
is training. He's on his way to become a Navy SEAL. That's pretty
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but so got to go from that, and I get out of the Navy, and then I go into chiropractic school, and so there, but your question was the early days. Stephen, it's hard to explain. I think I was born with a quality of fight. I was a born fighter on the inside. I just didn't know it, and I was too little to even think about it. But then once you realize that it's not, there's a saying, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog, right? And when you realize that it doesn't matter what situation you're put in, what environment you're put in, what job you have, if you've got a fighter's mentality of I refuse to quit mentality under any circumstances, you're going to be hugely successful in any part of your life. And I learned that as a kid, being, having to overcome adversities. And I'm not going into the ugly things. I had, my father, he drank and he was abusive. And then, there was just a lot of things I had to overcome, but I didn't let it hold me back. I used it to shape and create strength. Right. And then did I still use it to this day? So I hope that was kind of what you were looking for.
Tim, it's exactly what I was looking for. And thank you so much for sharing I mean, I can go in so many different angles. And we said before the show, let's not have any structure because these are the more
Yeah.
raw conversations that people need to hear because they see Tim Young now and they go, well, I can never be someone who sees 900 visits a week. No way. And I want people to understand that everything in life is a process and you have all the scar tissue to prove it. And
Yes,
there is
sir.
always, I did a lot of NLP stuff, whether people believe it or not, it doesn't matter. It's a concept that helps us to tap into the human psyche and the brain. And one of the exercises they gave us was you have an imaginary line and you step on it and you close your eyes and you walk to the point where you think, it's my last day on earth. You
Mhm.
turn around and you look at your younger self and you have 3 to 5 really defining moments in life that shaped you who you are. And you anchor it. They call it anchoring. You put like a physical thing to remind you what it was like for me to be 6 with a rifle or shotgun looking for hunting for food. But I'm not sure
Yeah.
if I don't know if you bring yourself back to that moment, did you feel poor at the time, or is this a
No,
reflection of where you
no.
are now?
Yeah, and that's interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's really it's an important part. I had no idea because there was nothing for me to compare it to. Well, I mean, what is poor? Like if you have to have comparison or perspective. It's my environment, right? It's I don't know, a dumb analogy or a weird analogy would be like an African tribe that has never seen civilization. That all they know is what their village and their people and their surroundings. They've never seen anything else. Well, you got to understand this is 1973, right? This is a long time ago, and in that environment, you know, there was no perspective. Poor is poor is poor. Now, So there's you say that, and then there was a little situation that happened that it was the first time, it was the very first time that I got a taste of perspective that stuck in my brain, that I actually still I write about it in the book too, because it was one of those things. It was the first time I ever went, wait a minute, something's not right here. Because to your point, it's all I've ever known is this is my surrounding. We didn't know we were poor. I had food. I had parents that loved me. I had a home. I had my dogs. I mean, I was happy. I was a happy kid. Because I didn't know not to be happy, right? I didn't have a perspective. If you guys, it's hard to explain because now we have so much, we have, this phone in our hand all the time, and we have all this information.
A
The
world of
only information that
abundance.
we had, our abundance was what was on the table, and you're proud to have it, right? And you didn't know you did. And here's the thing: not even proud to have it. You didn't know any different, right? And I will say, my parents, we were poor, but they always provided. So it's not like I went hungry. I wasn't without food or shelter. It wasn't that poor, but we had zero luxuries. Well, the only luxury that I got at this point in my life was my mother. She had and what I was talking about, where we lived down in the hills, my mom and dad worked at this meat. It was a meat. It's called a slaughterhouse
Hmm.
in a little town about 40 miles away, about 30, 40 miles away. And we're not talking 40 miles of like highway, like going toward Heathrow. It's like 40 miles of curvy back road. You guys have lots of those. And so it was like an hour drive from that little town to where we lived. Well, I would get home from school at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon by myself, right? I'd get off the bus, a school bus. I'd get off the bus and I would go in. I'm there till probably 7 o'clock a lot of times after dark until my parents got home. So as a little tiny boy, I'm left alone in the hills by myself. It's just, again, you learn to be self-reliant. Well, the story is my mother had went to and I'm sure you guys have these, we call them yard sales.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, okay. So was leaving the little town and somebody's having a yard sale, and she stopped because that's all where my clothes come from. My clothes were secondhand. Everything we had was secondhand, right? Somebody had a little old yellow metal toy dump truck, like dump truck, and we called them Tonka, Tonka. I don't know if you guys have those over there. It was a big deal. It was a big deal to have a Tonka truck back then. Now I didn't realize what a big deal it was, but I just realized when mom brought it home. And now mine was beat up, rusted, used. This is an old Tonka truck. She probably paid 50 cents for it. It was my prized possession. And it was funny. It was a little Tonka truck, but I was so tiny, I could get in it and ride it down the hill, And so I was so proud of it. So I took it to school one day. I had it on the bus, and I'm taking my truck to school, and I'm playing with it at school because it's one of those things that even a poor kid in the hills, you know, you want to show what you have, which is that was it. It was my prize, right? It's a weird thing now that you're not. I've never thought about it. So this moment right now, it's an interesting thing that's within all human beings, pride. Like you created a little bit of an ego. It's like you have some pride. You want to show off something, right? And I think it's because I'm overcompensated because I was always so tiny. I was the last kid to get picked for, to be on a sport team or whatever. So I take this truck to school and showing it off. Well, the next day, I take my truck to school and I have it in my hand in my lap. And then on the way home from school, there was a big long bus route, right? And all the other kids got let out a lot of times before me. By the time it got to our house, I was one of the last ones to get off the bus. Well, we pulled up in front of this house. And there's a kid, and it's funny that I remember his name. His name's Greg Donnelly, and his parents owned a feed store down the road. And the feed store is where everybody went to get feed for their cattle, their cows, and their horses. And they owned the feed store there. And so, if you could say they were the rich people in the community, that's who they were, right? And of course, I knew Greg, but I didn't know. I knew his parents owned the feed store because it was Donnelly Feed Store that we drove by. But again, no concept of rich, poor, wealth. It's just like they own the feed store. Well, that particular day, when Greg gets ready to get off the bus, I'm sitting on the bus and I look out the window. Greg has every single Tonka toy made. He has bulldozers, backhoes, tractors, dump trucks. There's like 11 that I didn't even know existed. All of them are brand new, and he has them lined up all the way down the front of his house so everybody can see them. And I remember sitting there looking out at all those new Tonka trucks, and I looked down at my beat up, rusted truck, and it took all the joy right out of me at that moment. So it's a fascinating thing. It was a lesson that I didn't realize I was learning.
And what is the lesson?
That
Because
perspective.
you're having such a like an epiphany here, and I think the reason why I resonate with you, Tim, so much, even though we might be different generations or people in my I'm late 30s, and people think you grow up with internet and phones. I think I told you before the call. I come from Bulgaria. It was a communist country when
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
one.
Totally different ballgame. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I actually relate more to my grandparents, oh, sorry, to people in the UK that are grandparents that I did with people my age because we had to line up the shops for a banana or a milk, and you'll have two coupons, and that's your allowance for the week. And excuse me. And my mum and dad worked just like yours, worked really, really, really hard, and they couldn't afford the bills. Mum was a nurse, my dad
Yeah.
was a police officer, respectful jobs. And
Yeah.
I have done so much reflection when I moved to the UK, and like, you can buy more than one piece of chocolate in the shop. Like that's unheard of. And I was here when I was 15 or 16,
It's
and people are like, why are you so happy all the
perspective.
time? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's perspective.
Yes.
But
Yeah. And so, yeah.
one question,
No, go
Tim,
ahead.
because this is a selfish question, but sometimes when I'm selfish, I think people get more out of the calls because they're the questions they want to ask. They never do.
Yeah.
I have a 4-year-old son. Awesome little dude. He's born in the UK. He's born in a nice
Mhm.
house. Me and my wife financially, we're doing okay. He has, he's the guy with all the toys that you're talking
Yes.
about. What was your strategy as a parent, as a leader with your kids? Because you have perspective. You come from nothing and you've built something incredible. I imagine they
Yeah.
have everything they want if they choose to. How do they still have the
Yeah.
mindset of, I will appreciate everything in life?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. I love what we're talking about because it's very dear to my heart. It's what I love talking about. My wife and I both. She she had a rough childhood too. Not the same as mine, but her childhood was more tougher when she got older, her
Mhm.
teenage years and stuff. So we both went through a lot of adversity, and when we met, both of us were in a spot that it was God had put us together because he knew that I needed help. He was blessing me with her. But we had a lot of adversity and we had to work really hard and a lot of struggle for the chiropractors. You guys got to understand. Everybody sees what I have now, but there was a day an associate, I was making $1,400. You got 1,400 pounds a month, and I was married and we had three kids. That doesn't go very far. That was a really tough time in my life. So I've come from nothing to a little bit more to then less than nothing and to build it. And to your question, absolutely. My kids, when we got to a certain point, they wanted for nothing. My wife and I, we one of our favorite stories to tell. One of our favorite stories to tell. I used to have to go to here in Oklahoma. We have horse barns, rodeos. Yes, what rodeos are, right? And in Oklahoma, where I'm at, it's like the number one place in the whole country because we're in the very middle of the United States. We're like right here where my house is. If you put a pin in the middle of the United States, you're probably going to hit my house. And so everybody comes here. So I would go to these events and I would set up a portable table and a portable adjusting table, and I put a sign up for $20 an adjustment. And I would work from 6 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the morning. And I would work 15 hours straight, just one adjustment at a time. And it was the only way I had enough money to buy my kids Christmas presents. We didn't have any money. And so I worked 7 days a week, 14, 15 hours a day, a lot of times, just to have enough money to buy presents. Well, so the story, what I wanted to share with you is the very first time there used to be I don't know if you ever had those over there. There used to be a big store called Toys R Us.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was the
yeah.
largest okay, so Toys R Us. So the very first time my wife and I we went in to Toys R Us and we bought all of our kids Christmas presents, and we didn't look at how much it cost, and we bought everything we thought they would want without even thinking twice about it. And we were leaving Toys R Us, and we had these huge carts, and we're pushing these things out, and we stopped and looked at each other, getting emotional now. That was a long time ago. We looked at each other and started to cry for the first time in our lives. We could. And so and I tell that story, and I didn't realize I was going to get that emotional. Um,
No, thank you for sharing,
you
sir.
realize that you've worked so hard to accomplish this, but then to your question is like, how do you raise um, children in that environment for them to grow up and be successful? My oldest daughter is 38, my middle daughter's 33, and my son's 28 now. I got four grandkids, but my children are strong, independent, hardworking, loving, caring, beautiful people. They're very successful in their own worlds. My middle daughter's a chiropractor. Alicia, she's the largest pediatric practice in the whole country right now. Um, so they're wonderful. And what I will tell you, you lead by example. As parents, you lead by example. You want them to have things, but we made sure they understood um, the value of it. Yeah, yes, you get these things, but they can be taken away from you. There's certain things that are required as a child or an adult or a human in our household that respect, those kind of things. Um, they worked hard, and my wife one time, so we both worked. We had jobs, you know, gosh, when we were even kids. I was working in milk barns and hay fields and on the farms, and my wife she worked picking up rocks and walnuts. I mean, we worked. Our kids never really had to work. And she said, she told me one time that she said, I'm worried they're not learning a work ethic. But I had to remind her, my oldest daughter was an elite gymnast. She like way high gymnast. And at 13 years old, she's in the gym 36 hours a week. I mean, there's a work ethic there that most people could never wrap their minds around. My son was an elite wrestler. The wrestling is one of the hardest sports on the planet. I mean, you get beat every single day. You got to overcome adversity. You got to work hard, and then he became a champion. My middle daughter, she had Alicia, the chiropractor. She had to work hard. She had an inner drive to achieve, but she had a little bit of a learning disability like I do, that she didn't memorize things. It was you just didn't read it and know it. It was like days of studying to understand it before you could pass a test. Very, very bright, but just I was the same way. I can't just read something and go take a test. My other two kids can. So she had to overcome that. And so she had to work really hard. And I think for your question and for people listening, when you're raising your children, you always want what you want for them that you didn't have. That's as a parent, that's one of the greatest gifts that you can give them. But one of the worst things you can do is not teach them the value of everything they have and how to earn what they want, how to become. They've got to understand where those things come from. And then the number one thing as a parent, the number one thing, they don't hear a word you say, not a word. They see everything you do, everything you do. They watch how you treat other people. They watch you work. They watch everything you do. My kids, when I was competing, um, I'll never forget, my wife told me this, and it kind of sticks out in my head. I was getting ready for a competition, and I went to the gym and trained with my trainers and everything, but then I would come home and I would do extra work. And I would take 50-pound dumbbells and I would lunge all around our pool, right, just to get extra work in. And my wife said, my daughter, she's probably 15 years, 14 years old, and she said she was watching me out the window, and she looked at my wife and she said, he wants it so bad, doesn't he? And my wife said, yes, yeah, honey, he does. And said, he just wants it so bad. And I think what happens is it's not something that you go tell your kids, hey, come watch me, look how hard I'm working. You lead by example, and they're watching you, and they take those things and they put them in their own life. So I think that's one of the most important lessons that anybody can learn.
Tim, thank you for sharing that. And I can tell how much obviously this is not scripted, which is why I don't do
Yeah,
scripts. And I think it's important
yeah,
to hit. There are certain things that really drive us. And for you, I can tell it's family, I can tell it's growth, I can
yeah.
tell it's standard and discipline. And I can see that in all of your work. And you live it. And I'm so glad you said lead by example. And me and my lovely wife, she bless her, she's like,
Yeah.
stop working so hard. But I actually think there's value in your kids seeing you leave the house and help people and come back. And Nalu, my son's name is Nalu, and Nalu said to me the other day, he's like, "Oh, Daddy, it's Saturday. Do you have to go to the office?" It's like, dude, I don't have to, but we get to. Get in the car with me and let's go and build this desk, and we'll because we're building little things for the team, and I think it's really important. And maybe there
It's
is a
everything.
maybe there's a I don't know. Maybe are we softer nowadays? Is there more of a sense of complacency and
Yeah.
the world? What is that saying? Hard men create easy times
Yes.
create weak men create hard times.
Yes. It's exactly right. And over here in the United States, I don't know how much so much in the UK, but I will tell you here in the United States, it's going we're going through that soft men. It's everybody's entitled. Uh, you owe me. I deserve. I mean, I deserve this. And in my world, you don't deserve anything. You earn
Earn it.
what you get. Yeah, there's a whole different ballgame, and this entitlement, this self-entitlement that, oh, I'm alive, I'm breathing, so you have to give me what you have. It's a weird perspective that's going on right now. But my kids don't have it, and I've got a grandson that's 12 and one that's 8, and those boys, they are learning the same lessons, right? And I believe their parents are a little too soft on them sometimes, but
I hope they're
that's
not
it,
watching this, or I hope they're.
now I hope they won't watch this, but they're great kids, and my kids are doing a great job of raising my son-in-law. He was ex-military. He works so hard, brilliant man. I'm really proud of what they've done. But you want what's best for them, right? You want what's best for everybody. But even when they come to my house, when they come to Papa's house, Papa don't play. You will not talk to your grandmother that way. You will not talk to us that way. You will not do. I mean, there's a standard, and I think that's really what it boils down to is for everybody listening. Is you all got to set a personal standard for yourself that translates, and you got to be consistent with your standards. It's not this way on Monday, and well, we'll let it slip on Tuesday. It's like I get up every morning, and the way I do anything is the way I do everything, and that was created through all the years of what we've been talking about. But if you were to talk to my kids, I'll give you a perfect example of this. My son, several years ago, he's 28, so he was probably 20, I don't know, probably 20, 25, 22, probably 22, 33 years old. And he was dating this girl, and she was talking to my wife, and she said, I need to tell you a conversation that me and your son had. And my wife's like, oh, this ought to be good. Right. And she said, I've never ever had a boy or my man, he's a boy, 22 years old. I've never had anybody that I've dated that carried my bags, opened my door, shut my door. I don't carry nothing. I don't open a door. I don't touch a door. He makes sure that when we're walking, I'm on his left side. He won't let me on the right. I mean, and she said, I was so blown away. And there's none of the guys I've ever dated have ever done this. And she said, his name's Arian. And I said, Arian, did your dad teach you how to treat a lady? And she said he got real quiet and he thought for a minute. And he said, no, he showed me,
That. Love that.
said everything. I mean, and it hits right in my heart, and I'm so proud. I'm so proud of him. I'm proud of all my kids, but you're proud. But then you think about it, I made a lot of mistakes as a parent. I mean, we all do. There's no instruction manual, but you lead by example. And here's the thing, if you're going to lead by example, you got to lead you first. It starts inside of you. Who you are is so much more important. Listen to everybody, listen to me. Who you are on the inside as a human being, as a man or as a woman, who you are, like when you look in the mirror, is so much more important than anything you do. Doesn't matter what you do, because everything you do will be a direct reflection of who you are. And so if you create a very disciplined, focused, intentional leader of yourself, a servant at your heart, warrior in the garden, not a gardener in the war, right? Because there's going to be battles. If you create that, then everything you do, your work will be a reflection of that, and you'll be hugely successful. But if you can't even lead yourself, if you don't respect yourself, if you don't honor yourself, if you don't trust yourself, if you don't love yourself, if you don't love you, you look in the mirror and you don't have those things, well, then it's in contradiction to ask anyone else to do that. So now you're leading a very false life, and people feel it and they see it, and that's what creates the confusion that we have in our lives. And so I learned through all the years that, and it's me against the world, and I will become strong enough to win this battle, and I'll take everybody else with me. And that's how I think we become successful.
Tim, this is priceless. Thank you, sir. We haven't touched on chiropractic one bit at
Nope,
all, and this is
I know.
why. And then, by the way, that's why I wanted people to see this. That it's not Dr. Tim Young, who is an amazing chiropractor. It's Dr. Tim Young, who is an amazing human being first. And you, again, people who have been part of the podcast and watching the journey, you know how it's so easy to judge $1 million practice and
Yeah.
this and that and the lifestyle and the swimming pools. It takes so much work and grinding and scars and showing up. And someone said to me, entrepreneurship is like being kicked in a balls multiple times a day, and you just learn
Yes.
how to how to hate it less each time. But then when you stand up one day and you go, you know what, we've built something incredible, and it was a process. And I want people to understand that these things, there's no ways of cheating life. You have to get
No.
from one level to the next, and it's a reflection of who you are. And this is my question for you
It
though, because
it, it is.
I want to challenge
Yeah.
you here because you're you've done something incredible and you've been building so much and you're now passing it on to the profession and it's amazing. But you often there's often resistance in the profession, especially young
Mhm.
chiropractors. And I want them to understand your journey, which is why I asked you the personal questions first. But in order for you to become the million dollar chiropractor, from the book,
Mhm.
what point what point almost broke you in that process? In other words, who did you have to stop being to build the identity you have now? And I want you to take yourself for
There
the
was
next, 10, 15, 20 years. And you gave me the story of your
yeah,
wife in the Toys R Us, which is so moving and emotional, but that's the happy ending.
yeah. That was from that moment on was great. Before that, there was one moment in particular that I reflect back on. I've been, and I've been asked this before, and it was a pivotal moment in chiropractic. So to give you context, I graduated school. It took me forever to pass my test. I live in Missouri. I take a job here in Oklahoma, which is about 4.5 hours away. We not from here, brand new city, moved my new family here. I went into practice as an associate with two doctors, a man and wife that I graduated university with from school. And we were just getting this. They had two practices. They had one where I was at, and then another one north in another town at about 30 miles. But anyway,
And when is this? Sorry, this is how
I
long
worked.
ago?
This was 1995,
Okay.
so for about 30 years ago.
30 years ago.
Yeah, 30, yeah, 90, 95, 96. And I moved. Shannon and I, my wife and I, just got married. She's pregnant with my son. We have the girls. I adopted the girls when I met Shannon. She had the girls. I adopted them. So brand new family, right? I go to the office one day and I go to put the key in the door, and the lock won't work. The key won't work. And I'm like, this is weird. And I go around to talk to the building manager, and she's sitting there waiting on me. She goes, I've been waiting on you. They had me change the locks. They shut the practice down. They've moved with no word to me
Without
at
telling
all.
you.
Nothing,
So
nothing.
you're
That's just who they
hitting
are.
rock bottom with two girls and a baby on the way.
Yeah. And no job, no job, no money, new city. I mean, when I say no money, we maybe have $100 in our checking account. I have no money in my pocket. I mean, it was just we were against it. So it was just one of those moments that it's a defining moment. You go through so many emotions of anger and fear and what we do now. And I just pick up back then we had these things called yellow pages. Y'all don't even know what those are, you kids. And I started going through the pages and I started calling every chiropractor in the book. And I finally found one that had a satellite office, and he put me in there. And I went from making $2,000 a month, $2,000 a month. I went to making $1,400 a month. So I lost $600 a month in income, but I had a job, right? And there was a defining moment. One day, we had to move into an apartment. There's five of us in a tiny little two-bedroom apartment, right? And we had one vehicle, and it was just a piece of crap and barely enough to get back and forth to work. And I was seeing about six a day. I mean, it was just barely getting by, right? And with that, and everybody one day came in and they were all complaining about how much worse they were and how much pain they were in. And and I know many of you have experienced that. You just feel like you can't win for losing, right? And I went home that night. It was in the summer and my wife had been home with the kids all day. And as soon as I walked through the door, she hands me the baby. She said, "I'm taking a shower. Get out." So there was a little tiny swimming pool for the apartment complex swimming pool. And I take my baby and take the girls down there, and he's in this little carrier, this little car, not car, baby seat, right? And I put him in it, and it kind of vibrates, and the girls are swimming in the pool, and I'm sitting there, and and again, I'm reflecting back like it happened yesterday, and it was the lowest part of it. It was the lowest part of at that point, my life, because I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. It's not working. I'm letting this family down. I'm letting my kids down. I'm letting my wife down. I mean, you feel like you're defeated.
And
I
as
was
a
completely
man, that's just the
as a
most
man.
awful
And
feeling.
well, yeah, and again, let's go back to what we were talking about earlier. This is the kid that learned to punch the bully in the face. This was the guy that would go into the gym and squat 400 pounds without a spotter, without a rack. Just I either did it or I didn't. I mean, I wasn't afraid of anything. And now I won the Missouri Tough Man to make enough money to actually move with, right? I'm a fighter and I'm defeated. Life has beat me down. It is winning. And I didn't know what to do. And I'll never forget the feeling of just utter despair. Like, well, what option did I have, right? I didn't have a choice. There was no choice in the matter. I had to get up the next day and go back to the office, right? And it's an interesting thing how the lessons that God teaches us, it's like I was led through that despair, that feeling of hopelessness and not sure what to do. And then the next day I go back to the office and it was a miraculous thing. Everybody that came in was better. And they praised and they said, "Thank you." And I can't believe this. And we saw two new patients that day. What? Right? Okay. Well, maybe there's more to this. And so I learned at that moment, I was like, well, the only thing I can control at all in my life, I can't control anything else other than the adjustment in practice. I can adjust and I can really, and it was always even in chiropractic school, that was my thing. My teachers would come and get me out of class to adjust them. I was better
Mm.
than the teachers were, right? But I put all my energy in my technique and my focus on that. And I didn't have any practice management, no coaching. You got to understand, I didn't know how to do a consultation exam or report of findings. I didn't know how to do anything. I was fumbling. No one taught me. But here's the thing: people were coming back, going, "Wait a minute, I'm better." Okay, if they're better, then I keep doing that. And then I went from 7 a day to 9 a day, to 10 a day, to 12 a day, and then I started working about 20 a day. And then I started seeing more than the owner of the clinic. He had another clinic. I started seeing more than he did. Well, then just like a lot of people, he starts trying to take advantage of me, right? He starts, and then so I get another job offer and I leave and go to another job for about a year. And then my wife and I had saved enough money and I learned enough lessons to open Young Chiropractic in 1999. And then it went straight through the roof after that. But you asked that question. It was a turning point in my professional career as a chiropractor. And many of you guys got to understand this. You don't see 250, 260, 270, 300 is my record in one day. You don't do that overnight, and you don't do it because you didn't put in, like you said, you don't have the scars. I got a lot of chiropractic scars. Um, I'm 1 month away from finishing 30 years of a completed chiropractic practice, and I got lots of stories. But there's always a turning point, and that was for me and it's still the lesson I teach today. It's the principle I teach today. It's the chiropractic principle. It's the most important thing. You focus and you're intentional on the adjustment, on your patient. Time stands still. We call it present time consciousness. You're present. And when you focus on that specific adjustment, and that is the only thing that matters, and you celebrate it and you make it the reason that you're there, and you make it the adjustment the reason they come, you make that powerful, you grow from there. That's the seed, that's the chiropractic seed to plant the big oak tree that you're creating. And that was the time that was the defining moment that said, okay, there. And there was another defining moment that took me from 200 a week to 500 a week that we can talk about if you want to, but that was the
Yes,
defining
sir.
moment of despair, broken, no hope, nowhere to turn, to wait a minute, there's something here. And you all have it. You all have it. Every chiropractor has it. You have these. You have it. You just have to understand where it comes from, and then cultivate it and grow it.
I love that. I think there must be this because of the diversity you've had from a young age and coming from nothing and really having to build everything yourself from scratch and failing many times. I think there's truly something that is in people's psychology, which is we're afraid of failure, therefore I'm not going to start. And one of my early mentors said, what if I told you that the dream, the goal, the thing for your family, for your hopefully the community is 1,000 failures away. All you have to do is just fail 999 times because
That's
because
Thomas Edison.
success is so predictable and it's so consistent. If we have just that mentality of I'm just going to keep going, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep adapting.
Well, it's the story of Thomas Edison creating the light bulb, right? He he failed 99 times to create the light bulb. And somebody said something, Thomas, are you going to quit? He goes, I didn't fail 99 times, 999 times. I created 999 ways that it won't work. Right. And yeah, failure, here's the thing. The only failure is quitting. There's no in my world, there's no such thing as failure. There's things that didn't work. It's not a failure. Giving up is the failure. Giving up. And Tony Robbins, who's my hero, he says this: there's not a lack of resources. There's a lack of resourcefulness. You know, there's a million ways to become successful, a million ways to make money, a million ways to be a great chiropractor. Um, but you can't teach one. You got to want it.
I love that. Yeah, he's when I was in college and I should have studied biomechanics and physiology and chemistry, I was studying all the work of Tony Robbins of human psychology. And what a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
person.
Well,
Have you done
yeah,
his
he's been
mastery?
my hero. Yeah, I did business mastery. I've done UPL. I've done a lot of his stuff. Yeah, I've been following him for, gosh, probably 30 years.
Yeah, in one of his, what is the book, The Giant Within, when he talks about stop shooting yourselves. It's a must. It has to become a must for you to make that
Must.
change.
Yeah, it should quit. I should do this. He said, people that say I should do this, I should get a coach, I should read this book, I should work harder. He said they just end up shoulding all over themselves. He goes, when it goes from a should to a must, and that's when things change. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Tim. Okay, so I want to talk about. I think so. Okay, so there is lots of different journeys on people's success. Are we okay on time, by the way?
No, we're fine.
We're good on
Yeah,
time.
I'm
Great,
good.
because I can talk for you for the next 6 days. I'm not going to, but I also want the listener to
Yeah.
hopefully stop the video, make notes, and take action. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was maybe a bit more of a tactical question, Tim. I'm taking you back 30
Okay.
years ago and I want to play a game. We're building your practice from scratch nowadays, but the only two things you
Yes.
have is your knowledge and your experience. You don't have much money, you're renting a room
Okay.
somewhere, you don't have like 2 million to be investing in the best benches and traction tables and all that stuff. How would you build that
Yeah.
practice to a million if I give you 36 months or 5 years?
Oh, it's well, first of all, I've got, and as a chiropractor, I have the greatest gift in the world. It's called the gift of chiropractic. So I have two hands. I know how to adjust. That's all you need. That is all you need. And then what you also have to have in a way I would do it is I have clarity on my purpose. I know exactly, as a chiropractor, I know exactly what my purpose is. I understand as a chiropractor what my job, what my role is. And I'm very passionate about that.
Do
My
you want to share
role
that
is
with
to look
people?
for,
Oh, thank you.
well, yeah, absolutely. My role, my passion is this. Well, let's back up real quick. I'm actually going to do a whole lecture on this coming up. So you have to ask yourself, why am I a chiropractor? Where does that come from? I mean, it's not one of the easiest jobs in the world, right? And as a chiropractor, you become a servant. You serve others. Well, what is it about any human being that's within them that generates this thought, this feeling, emotion that I want to go serve another human being? Why? Most people don't. If you walk down the street anywhere you are and you see construction workers and you see people on their way to their jobs and they're doing things, they're not serving a human being. They're not giving to the community. They're just going and doing a job. They're self-serving, right? In a way. Well, chiropractors, we're all called to serve. Well, where does that come from? And I've spent a lot of time really breaking that down and trying to figure out in me, I have the biggest servant's heart in the world. I love everybody. I mean, and I say this, I love strangers. I will do things for strangers that no one else will do. I get it from my mother, but I have this internal just passion for giving to other people. Where does that come from? It's an interesting dynamic. And I want you all to go on chat and chat how many times the word love is in the Bible. It's in there probably more than any other word. Chat, how many songs have ever been written about love? It's tens of millions. How many books, how many poems that have the word love in it? It's the majority, right? And so what's interesting is when you think about humans and you think about the evolution of just, you know, humans in general, the number one driving force that starts wars, that starts this, it's love. Love, And so we have this, the strongest human emotion in our hearts is love. And so we love other people enough that we want to give of ourselves to go serve them. And I have a ton of that. And I understand that God has given me a gift of chiropractic. So I can take this gift and then I can take it and give it to another human being because I truly love it. It isn't about me. And that's the number one thing that if you want to be hugely successful. So when I go back 30 years and I start all over, I understand that I'm not here for me. I'm here for you. And so then now I have a very crystal clear, articulate message that I'm going to serve you. I'm going to love you with the gift that I have. And the gift is this. I know I have a knowledge. I have an understanding that within your spine, the joints can be restricted. They can be injured. They can be damaged from universal stresses, from gravity, from falls, from the way we sleep, from posture. These things cause stress in our spine. And when you stress the spine, it causes an irritation and inflammation within the nerve tissue. The brain is now communicating to the tissue cell, and it causes dis-ease. And this dis-ease can create pain, it can create sickness, it can create disease. My job as a chiropractor is to locate that stress and remove it by introducing a chiropractic adjustment specifically into that joint, maintain that motion, and allow the body enough time to heal. That is my gift. God's gift to me is that knowledge. My gift to you is to adjust you specifically and allow you the expression of health. That's what I do. And I'm crystal clear on my message. And I have no fear of judgment of that message. Now there's people that may not agree with that. That's okay. It's still my message. They may not want what I have. That's okay. I'm still here. But there are people that do. And I will go find them and I'll go find another one. And I may shake 1,000 hands. 1,000 hands in a month. I have 1,000 people, and two of those 1,000 might come to see me. That's two that didn't. And then I'll do 1,000 more, and two more will come. So that's four, and two more will come, and now that's six. And because I have my message and my mission and my technique down, those six will go tell six more. Now we have 12. Now we have 24. Now we have 48. Now we have $1 million practice, right? But it all starts with why am I doing this in the first place? Am I doing this to pay my bills? You'll never be successful. You'll never be successful. Not at another level, right? And so that's when I go back. You have got to be crystal clear and specific on who you are, what you do, and why you're doing it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's amazing because when you observe some of the greatest, including yourself, in any profession, it typically boils down to clarity and why. Clarity and
Yes.
why. Because when, excuse the French, when shit hits the fan and it gets tough, it's those things that really get you to cross the line of another lesson, of another failure that people might think it's along the
Most
way.
chiropractors, I got us. This last weekend, we talked about it earlier. I'll be at the UCA this fall, over there in the UK. It's speaking to you all, but you guys have one big convention for your continuing education hours. We have one each year, and it's a smaller one. And I was just at that this weekend, and I saw a lot of, and I've been here 30 years, and I started the association, so I know everybody. And I'm just talking to people I haven't seen in forever. Man, it's amazing to me how these guys just go through life, and it's like this. Everybody everybody says, "Well, yeah, I want to take a trip. I want to go on holiday." Okay, where are you going? I don't know. Okay, well, how are you going to get there? I don't know, but I really want to go on holiday. Well, but where do you want to go? I don't know. I haven't figured it out. Okay, well, you as chiropractors, if you don't have a very specific destination of where you want to go, you'll never create a vessel or a path to get there because you don't know where you're going in the first place. Like if you're going to go across the street, you can walk. If you're going to go to another country, you don't have to take a plane. But unless you know where you're going, how you going to get there? And so most chiropractors never stop and go, okay, I want to create this in my life. Now we can talk. Now you and I can get on a mission. All right, we're going to do this. Now I'm going to give you the path and the vessel to get there. But until you get that, all you're doing is just running in circles, trying to get
Yeah.
somewhere.
It's so interesting, isn't it? And what I found in life is sometimes not making a decision for me is being the worst decision. It's
Yes,
it's just not having that clarity. And Dr. John D. Martini's work really helped me with the values and linking those two.
yes. Followed John for years. When I first got out of school, and what's funny is I have a book called the chiropractic story of Marcus Bach. And if you know D. Martini's story, I was 27 years old, right out of school, and I went to Vegas Parker the only time, and I listened to John speak for the first time. I didn't know who he was speak for the first time. Changed my brain,
It
right?
resonated.
And he talked about hiking Machu Picchu, the Inca Trail up to Machu Picchu in Peru. And he had a backpack, and he reached in and he pulled the book, the chiropractic story by Marcus Bach, and he read that at the sundial. And I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's a magical place. And that's what made him want to become a chiropractor. And that story stuck in my brain. So on my 50th birthday, we hiked the Inca Trail 4 days through the Peruvian jungle. It was the craziest experience of my life. And then when I got to the sundial and looked down over the village of Machu Picchu, I got my Marcus Bach book out and took a picture. And I sent to him. I never heard from him, but it inspired me 25 years prior to do that, And so when you said DeMartini, you're right. It expanded my consciousness of what was possible. And I didn't
Yeah.
know it at the time, but I came back to those lessons later on in life.
Yeah, I love that. And obviously that led you to feel inspired and release your book. My whole team have a copy and thank you for your work. Millionaire Chiropractor, right?
Millionaire chiropractor. Yeah. Yeah. I
Millionaire
have
Chiropractor.
one right here. Yeah.
I actually think, I know why you've done it, but I actually think the title, if I was completely transparent with you, Tim, I would, and I hope people watch and listen to this, the book is 1,000 times deeper and better and more valuable than how the title appears. So do not
Yep.
let guys, do not be fooled by the title because the book is incredible. It's about how do we build more wealth through serving more people, through creating abundance and I guess freedom, freedom of expressing yourself. But I want to ask you this. So I've read the book, and the way I interpret it, one of the biggest messages was one of the biggest takeaways, I guess, is unless you deeply believe in chiropractic, no funnel, no marketing strategy will save you. Am I
No,
right in saying that?
and you're absolutely right. Because what happens is all the marketing and all the funnels and all the things you can do is like pouring water in a bucket full of holes.
Absolutely.
That's all that it is. And you will continually have to try to fill that bucket, and you're never going to until, and the book was designed. I had a doctor in Denver, Colorado, I talked to you last week. He has been in my coaching group for 4 years and he's doing well. He read the book and he broke every office record he had in January, every collection, every number. And he told me, he said, after reading the book, it clicked. And because what it did was it filled in the gaps. And I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot believe. And so I have 100 new videos in my coaching program that I haven't even posted yet, that more content to fill in those gaps. And that's what the book was created for. And I want to touch on something. Have you ever read the book Think and Grow Rich?
Yes, sir. Napoleon Hill.
Okay. Yeah, Napoleon Hill. It is the number one success personal development book ever written. It has sold more copies. The only other book that has sold more copies is the Bible. Now, when you hear the title, Think and Grow Rich, does the book have anything in it about being rich? No. Millionaire Chiropractor, my publicist and I, she's the one who created it, but she's like, this will get their attention
Yep.
because they're going to say millionaire chiropractor. There's no such thing as a millionaire chiropractor. How? And then I'm going to teach you, right? And it's not about who gives a shit if you make, I apologize, you're making money. It's not about being a millionaire. It's having a millionaire attitude. That's the difference. Because people don't just create $1 million because they got, some do, they did, win the lottery. They generated $1 million because of the people they were. That's what I'm talking about. This is about becoming the type of human being that can create that kind of wealth from service.
Yeah, I love that. And actually, I've not talked to you about this, Tim, but I would love to donate 10 books to anyone who drops us a message, reach out to Tim or myself, and Practice Speak will pay for those books because if you've lived under a rock and you somehow missed the book, read it. It will lead you to a whole new way of thinking. How John D. Martini inspired me when I was younger, and how Tony Robbins inspired you. I have a feeling that
Mhm.
your book should be something that people read regardless of what stage of their career they're at. But if the fundamental concept of the book is marketing is a superficial thing that is layered on top of
Yeah.
chiropractic, how do we, especially with, again, I don't want to get too political, how do we get the younger generation of chiropractors to believe in chiropractic? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but if a dentist comes out of dentist university college, they don't have to believe that me being a dentist
Mm-mm.
works. It just works. Same with chiropractic, but only when I know chiropractic works, regardless if I believe in it or not. How do we get that mindset and mentality to the younger people?
Well, the problem is the younger people are going to universities that are never teaching them that. So they go to, and I believe what happened is are going to become a chiropractor for the wrong reason. And I had this conversation with a university president many years ago, Dr. Ed Cordero at Sherman. And when you study chiropractic history, and I think everyone should know, you guys should know, like if I asked you, if you look behind me, I have the painting is the very first adjustment. That's Didi delivering the first adjustment to Harvey Lillard. That's what that is. If you look at the brick that's in the case,
Yep.
that brick is from the building, the actual building that the first adjustment is delivered in, right? And on top of that, I have a card, a BJ Palmer, original BJ Palmer business card. It's in that also. I surround myself with chiropractic. I know. So if I was asked you, how was chiropractic discovered? Didi adjusted Harvey, his hearing came back. But if I was asked you, who um, who named chiropractic? Who named it? Where did it come from? Some people might know. Some people might know. It was Reverend Samuel Weed, was who named it. But then even the most philosophical evidence, or philosophical history buffs. I said, okay, yeah, but why does Samuel Weed name chiropractic? And they try to say, well, it's because it was Greek. No, 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 no. Why did he name it? They don't know that. Well, Samuel Weed had tuberculosis, and this is in 1895 when there was no cure, there was no medication. They would die from it. And he went to see Didi, not BJ, Didi, the first chiropractor, and received an adjustment. His tuberculosis was cured. He goes back to his congregation, tells everybody, right? Tells everybody. They also go to see Didi, this new healer. Their diseases went away. Teach us. This is how the school started. The school started, chiropractic started from the adjustment, created a school. Then BJ comes along and he develops a school. Well, people went to chiropractic school not because they needed a job, because they had a story. I was dying of diabetes. I was dying of tuberculosis. I was suffering with all these health conditions, and I received this thing called an adjustment that no one even knew about other than BJ and Dee and a few others that received it that decided to learn it. And that's what created this whole profession. So what I'm going to tell everybody is like the young doctors have got to study their history and study where they come from, because you got to understand that you're not being taught the truth. This profession was created and developed and based off of chiropractors adjusting the spine, removing interference, and diseases healed. Everybody that become a chiropractor story, and what's happening is young doctors don't have a story. It's like, well, I guess I could be a physical therapist, I could be a dentist, I could be a massage therapist, I could work in a gym. You know what? I could be a chiropractor. They're doctors, and they don't understand why they become a chiropractor in the first place. They have no understanding of the gift they've been given, and have not been taught that. But if they will spend time with their chiropractic history, and they will read the green books, and they will go back and read Stevenson's 33 principles, and they will actually dive into the core essence of what it means to be a chiropractor, then it is revealed to you. And I told you there was a time in my life that the chiropractic was truly revealed to me. And that's when everything exploded. And so for the young doctors listening right now, it is not about manipulation. We do not manipulate. You don't manipulate the mid back 6 times and refer if they're not feeling better. That's not what we do. And you got to dive into our history. You got to know where we come from to know where you're going. But you got to understand why this profession was created in the first place and what developed it, where we are. And when you do that, then you're going to have a different sense of understanding of, oh, wait a minute, I'm a part of something bigger than just manipulation and physiotherapy. I'm about amplifying life. I'm about the subtle essence of the soul. That's what we're about. And that's what I want everybody to get.
I love that. I love that. And that took me a long time, even for myself. When I told you our team went from one person to 5 people to 10, so now we have close to 20 people, and it's difficult to manage people. People are people. But what I found
Yeah.
one of the most helpful things, Tim, for me personally, and hopefully people listening can relate, it was unifying the message in my practice. And it started off, we help people have less aches and pains and helping the community. And it was very fluffy.
Yeah.
And year
Yeah.
two got less fluffy, and year five got less fluffy, and year eight is we change people's lives. Dot, dot, dot.
Yes.
Not one patient, one person at a time. And that took me
That's it.
so long to unify, because when you get busy and you see 50, 100, 150 visits, I think we sometimes get complacent, and chiropractors need that understanding that it's not an x-ray, it's not a green appointment type. It's a person in front of you, dude.
Yes.
And
That's it.
especially the young ones, when they haven't had challenges with their health and they don't have the bad backs to stop them from lifting their grandkids,
Yeah.
it
They
needs to
don't
come
have a
from,
story.
they don't have a story. No. So
Mm-mm.
yeah, I've really, really, really encouraged people reading books like yours and going back to the origin. And if I was to, I'm also aware of your time, Tim. If I was to go forward now, so I understand you, and it's so amazing how your personal story. I can so see why you're successful in every sense of the word success, from where you started to how you've built your life to how you're serving others. But I also like to pick people's brains like yourself. What does the profession look like in the next 10 years? What would separate a top 1% practice from the rest of the practices?
So that's a great question. And that's one of the questions that's been asked by chiropractor leaders throughout history. You can go back and read BJ's work, and people would ask him, where do you see chiropractic the next 30 to 50 years? And you listen to Reggie Gold or Sigafus or Clarence Gonstead, the names that a lot of us, some of you know, some of you don't know, they were asked that question. And here I am, I'm turning into that old guy that gets asked that question. And
Wise.
and here's the thing about chiropractic. Chiropractic is truth, and the truth will always be revealed to those who are willing to accept it. Um, it's like Christianity. They tried to destroy Christianity many, many years ago, and here it still is, right? And I'm just using that as an example. It doesn't matter what faith you're in. I'm just using an example of, they crucified the man. They tried to snub it out, but the truth is revealed. And within chiropractic, the truth will always be revealed. And there are universal laws like gravity. You jump off your house, you're going to fall. I don't care what you believe. It's a universal law. Well, chiropractic is created within the universal laws. It is. You can argue it, but it's like arguing jumping off the house. It doesn't matter. It still is. And so in order to perpetuate this profession, in order to separate yourself into the top 1%, that's why I wrote the book. There's a thing I call the kingdom of NA in the book, and I know you read that. And what you have to understand is there's an innate intelligence with all of us, and it's created as an expression from universal intelligence. And until you understand that, you're always going to struggle as a chiropractor because you're never going to understand the true essence. And when I say struggle, you might see 100, 120, 150 a week. I've seen 150 in 3 hours, and I don't say that to brag, but it's like, okay, well, and you might say, well, yeah, but you can't. There's no way you're giving good care by seeing 130, 150 people that fast. Okay, well then my question to you would be, then why did they show up? Why were they there? Right? I
So it
didn't pay
works.
them to come. They paid me to come. And so there was I'll make a very long story short because of time. When I was in chiropractic school, my mentor and teacher, Dr. Gibson, he took our philosophy class down to the cadaver lab where the cadavers were, and he pulled back the sheet and asked us what was missing. And no one could answer the question because we thought the liver, we didn't know what he was talking about. And he never said a word. And he put the sheet back on it. And then we went back to class and he never said another word about it. It was one of those crazy moments. And he became a great friend and mentor. He passed. I'm going to speak at his celebration of life in a few months. But with that being said, this was still in school. He was a terrifying man. He was a true chiropractor from old school, right? Well, anyway, we go back to class. He doesn't say another word about it. And I remember looking at my buddy going, what the hell was that all about? Right. And so they just continued to lecture and I completely forgot about it. This is 1993. So fast forward 10 years later, I have never thought about that again. I'm seeing around 200 patients a week, brand new home, new cars, successful, loving it. I'm good at adjusting. Life is great. I lay a hand on a patient. I get ready to adjust, and my hands came off. And I don't know how to explain it without it sounding weird, but it was a revelation to me at the moment. The memory of that what's missing moment came flooding back. It was like the heavens parted, and it just poured on me. What's missing, Stephen? The soul. We were looking at a corpse. What's missing? The spine is there. The muscles are there. The nerves are there. The brain is there. Everything is there, just like your patient. There's no different. What's missing? Life. Life is missing. That is what I work with. And it was like God was saying, this now is revealed to you. This is why you're adjusting. You are amplifying. You're releasing life. And I'll never forget that moment of clarity. And when I adjusted, it was with a different intention. 200, 220, 280, 300, 320, 370, 400, 400 for 3 years, 40, 405, 450, 500 a week, 500 a week for years, 600, 500, 600, boom, 700. I mean, just, and no marketing, all internal referrals. It was just coming from me because that's what my mission was. And so if you're going to become a top 1% all chiropractors, if you truly want to experience what chiropractic has to offer, understand that your mission is to love and serve human beings, and you do it through a chiropractic adjustment, but you do it with the intention to amplify life. My daughter sees nothing but babies, and before she had her own baby, they saw 200 babies in one day before she left. Amplifying life. That's what this is about.
Wow. So I had a couple of more questions, but I think this is probably the best way to end because anything I say from now on is going to deduct the value that you've just given to the rest of the world. So I
Well,
hope
you'll have to have me. You'll have to have me back.
we have to do, and just to let people know, so you'll be, especially for the channel goes to the States as well as the UK, but you'll be in the UK for 20th and 21st of March. You will be with Dr.
I
Ryan
will be here.
Riders.
Yes, the 21st. Yep, Ryan Riders. If you all know Ryan, come to his event. He's absolutely one of my closest friends in chiropractic. He's spectacular. I'll be there teaching technique, and I'll be working on philosophy and practice management and all those things in March. Yes,
Amazing. And are you speaking at the UCA conference in October, or you are doing the workshop the day before the?
both. Doing both.
So I'm
I'm
sharing a stage with you.
I'm one of yeah, one of the speakers. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, guys. So that's I think 16th of October. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. And on that Friday, I'll be doing technique all that day. And so, they are organizing that through the UCA, Melissa.
Yep.
She'll be organizing that. And then I'll be one of the speakers with you on stage. So I'm looking forward to that in October. So that's gonna be great. I love coming to the UK. I have a lot in so I have my own coaching group, Focus Foundations, and we have a ton of UK doctors all around London and Bristol and all over in the group. And they have meetings all together too. So I'm over there twice a year with them, but we're coming for you guys this time.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. I'm so excited to share stage with you, but also I told you I'm bringing all of my team and associates for the Friday workshop to get them. You said that what adjustment is going to change their life. They'll never be the same forever.
It will change their life. I will adjust everybody. And I have had doctors I adjusted 15 years ago at a seminar that will find me 15 years later and said that one adjustment changed everything. You all have never been adjusted quite like this. And so and it will be life changing. It'll be practice changing. And I'm excited to share.
Amazing, amazing. Likewise. And wow, one of my dreams has come true. I didn't realize because I got the email last week saying that I've been invited to be one of the speakers as well. So that will be October the 16th is the workshop with Dr. Tim Young, guys. Then we have last year, no, sorry, yeah, last year, Tim, they broke the record. I think they had close to more than 600 chiropractors in that one room in the UCA conference. So it's going to be hopefully more people coming and let's raise the bar of the profession. And
Absolutely.
I cannot thank you enough for giving an hour and a half of your time, sir. Thank you so much.
It's an honor. And anytime you want me back and anything I can do to help, you reach out and let me know.
Thank you very much, sir. I will definitely have a part two. And thank you for watching and listening, guys, to the Practice Speed podcast. Thank you.